Hi, Shan.
Hey, Mom.
What are you doing?
Watching TV.
Ooh, what is this show?
It's kind of complicated.
She looks mean. Who is that?
You want to watch something?
You like
I
her?
can.
Oh.
I can watch this later.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I kind of wanted to talk
About.
just continuing our conversation from last week about birth control.
Again?
Well, Shan, we talked about it last week, but we kind of need to continue the conversation.
What else is there to talk about?
Well, that video that we watched, it didn't cover other forms of birth control.
Like what?
There's many more. There's cervical caps, diaphragms, and several other methods that I think we should talk about.
Cervical caps are one of the oldest birth control devices. They have been constructed out of various materials since at least 1852 BC, as evidenced by an ancient Egyptian medical papyrus. In order to prevent pregnancy in the 1800s in Europe, women would actually place a halved lemon rind inside their vagina so that it cut their cervix. And the acidity from the lemon would actually act as a natural spermicide.
In modern times, cervical caps are made out of plastic, and there are multiple brands of spermicide used in conjunction with them to help prevent pregnancy. When used in conjunction with spermicide, cervical caps are 84% effective with typical use and 91% effective with perfect use.
A birth control device that is similar to the cervical cap is the diaphragm. When used in conjunction with spermicide, the diaphragm is 84% effective with normal use and 94% effective with perfect use. Both the cervical cap and diaphragm are prescribed by a doctor so that they fit properly, must be placed onto the cervix several hours before intercourse, and are used in conjunction with spermicide in order to increase effectiveness in pregnancy prevention.
Diaphragms are typically less expensive than cervical caps, but they do require more spermicide for effective use. They come in many different sizes, whereas the cervical cap only comes in 3 different sizes. Cervical caps create a suction against the cervix, which diaphragms do not. And though both methods of birth control must be left in 6 hours after intercourse, the cervical cap does not need to be removed as soon as the diaphragm after the designated waiting period.
Spermicide can also be used alone as a birth control method, with a normal use effectiveness of 71% and a perfect use effectiveness of 85%. It is important to be aware of any sensitivities to spermicide when using a cervical cap, diaphragm, spermicide by itself, or with any other birth control method. A woman may have sensitivities to spermicide, and in some cases, such as in spermicides containing the ingredient inoxal 9, these sensitivities may result in small skin lacerations and an increased susceptibility to STIs.
Whoa, Mom. I think if I was going to use a form of birth control that wasn't in the video, it would be the NuvaRing.
Like a purity ring? Because, honey, those do not work unless you are 100% committed to abstinence. And when those hormones, they start kicking in...
No, Mom! The NuvaRing
What?
is a new form of birth control. It's a hormonal form of birth control. You can use it instead of the pill because it has a lower dose of hormones.
Yummy.
The NuvaRing is a soft, flexible ring that is 2 inches wide in diameter and only 1/8 of an inch thick. It contains a lower dose of estrogen and progestin because this placement allows for a more targeted release. It is placed inside a woman's vagina and is only removed after 3 weeks to change it, or depending on your preference, it can also be removed before intercourse. When changed, it is typical to wait a week before inserting a new one to allow for menstruation.
This placement reduces the amount of hormones needed without compromising its effectiveness in pregnancy prevention. After an adjustment period, it is usually not even felt by the woman. It allows for spontaneity and reduces the number of times a month a woman has to worry about birth control. With normal use, it is 92% effective in preventing pregnancy. With perfect use, it is 99.7% effective.
Wouldn't that be uncomfortable though? The NuvaRing? I just know I couldn't.
I mean, I think it's a matter of personal preference, but there's also always the patch.
The patch.
Do you
Which
even
means...
know what that is?
No.
Oh, Mom.
Ortho-Evra, also known as the patch, is a square patch that is a little less than 2 inches on each side and contains hormones to prevent pregnancy. It is 92% effective with normal use and 99.7% effective with perfect use.
The patch is sticky and can be placed almost anywhere in the body as long as it does not rub off. It is left on for 3 weeks at a time. Generally, when you're changing the patch, it is left off for 1 week to allow for menstruation, and then the new patch is placed in a different location than the one from the previous month.
Shan, I really want you to know that you control your own body. Now, the last method that I did want to talk about before I forget is the only way that a female can control her own STI prevention, and that's the female condom.
It's a female condom.
Yeah. You've never heard of one?
No.
Doo-doo-doo.
The female condom is almost the inverse of the male condom. They have 2 rings, one which goes around the cervix and the other which is placed directly outside the vaginal opening. Their effectiveness with normal use is 79%, with perfect use is 95%.
The biggest complaint about female condoms is that they make noise during intercourse. They are made of polyurethane and can rub together and squeak, which is a nuisance for some people. At the same time, they are the only female-controlled barrier method of contraception. This is important because it allows a woman to protect herself from contracting an STI, and it's especially important if a male partner refuses to wear a condom.
Despite some negative feedback, the female condom is a viable option in many situations, and a woman should always know that she has this option available for her own health and well-being.
Yeah, well, that's good to know, but I feel like most people have a pretty positive attitude towards male condoms.
I think you're right, hon, but it's good to know that there's options out there and there's alternatives.
Yeah.
Dan, I'm just so glad you've taken initiative on this very important topic. It's so great for you to have control over your own body.
Yeah, I mean, these decisions can have a huge impact on my life, so I want to have all the information I can to make the best ones.
That's such a good way to look at it, hun. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks.
Speaking of which, have you seen your little brother?
Why?
Because I feel like I need to talk to him too.
Mom, I think maybe you should let Dad talk to him about this kind of thing.
Talk to him about what?
Hi, honey.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Dad, Mom wants to completely bombard Robbie out of the blue and talk to him about birth control.
Not bombard.
I understand. Yeah, let me handle this. I think the best way to teach a kid his age about sex is to wait for teachable moments, like when they talk about sex on TV. I know when I was his age, I was really embarrassed to talk about sex, but I was also really curious, so it couldn't hurt.
That's a good point.
All right, thanks, Dad.
You're welcome.
See.